Welcome to Beyond the Pages. I'm your host, Arlene Reyes from Donnelly.media. In this podcast, we go beyond the headlines, diving deep into the stories that matter with our team of journalists. Stay with us as we uncover the details, insights, and untold perspectives behind the news.
Donnelly.media presents Beyond the Pages. Captain Tree Service sponsors today's episode. When a disaster happens, call the captain. 856-796-3536.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. Today we're interviewing Mickey Brandt, and we're going to talk to him about his background in journalism and also the story he wrote for SNJ Today, Resilient Voices. So Mickey, thank you for joining us today.
It's a great opportunity. I mean, I'm honored, and I respect the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we are an honor to have, all of our journalists, but you with SNJ Today that joined the Donnelly.media family last year. And tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into journalism and what keeps you going in writing.
My day job career was as a teacher, mostly at the intermediate school level. I always had a secondary shadow career in media and writing. And eventually, when I left teaching in 2006, journalism in particular, radio in some regards, mentoring students a little bit, became my interest. Like that's what I worked on. Sometimes it was nearly full time, especially in the earlier days. Now it's a more part-time. I do occasional cover story, maybe one a month. I do a couple shorts during the week. It's a weekly paper, SNJ Today. So that was actually the beginning of my interest and work as identifying myself as a journalist. And that's a little more than 20 years ago.
Wow. Was it always in New Jersey?
Yeah, I'm a lifer. As I wrote in my bio, I borrowed that from some other lifer who has been writing for a different newspaper for his whole career. I was born and raised and work in Vineland, New Jersey, and the paper covers a little bit wider area. But yeah, this is hometown at its best.
Yes. And do you still keep? So I know the story is, it's local, and they perform locally as well, but they go throughout different areas. But do you keep most of your story writing within Vineland, or do you expand a little bit out of that?
The expansion sometimes is based on events, happenings outside of the immediate area, but that include someone that is from the immediate area. So the answer is yes, there's a local angle to everything that we publish. We don't publish Philadelphia news. We don't publish Atlantic City news. We publish news that include local people. Sometimes it's most of the stories are all about local efforts, unusual. You look for, as you well know, you look for something that's, not average, something that's a little bit newsworthy. Mm-hmm. And you find that it's going on all the time. I've written about hundreds of things.
What are your favorite topics to write about?
That's a good one. One of my favorite things, which I don't do anymore, the format has changed, but I love the car guys, the guys that had old cars from my era, which is one thing. I had one, which is another thing. Mm-hmm. And they have car shows in summertime. It's big in the summertime. And they have car shows all over the area. Vineland is one center of car shows and cruising. Sometimes the car shows include a cruise, where the guys and women can drive it's almost all guys. They can drive their cars in addition to displaying them. And Vineland happens to have a 100-foot wide main street that accommodates 1,000 cars during the car show and cruise in Vineland, which is well known, attracts people from all over the place. And I love writing about them. They're real, they're really straightforward. They're so passionate about their cars that they rarely talk about their jobs or their former jobs. And I really like writing about them. I like writing about local sports achievements, not day to day, scores, win or loss or anything like that, but guys from the area that have gone on. Some of them play in the minor leagues, occasionally the major leagues. I love to write about them, and I probably could go on about that, but it's just in general, something that will catch the reader's eye, and something that also never fails to please and make the people that I do the stories about like so happy. Might be the only time, that might be the only time that happens to them and with them.
Yeah, people very much get excited when them or a relative are on the cover of a newspaper, or sometimes in our magazines. We often get people, reach out and say, can you send me a few copies?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a relative told them, so we're sending copies outside of our area, which would be outside of New Jersey or Pennsylvania. But yeah, people still get very much excited on having, their photo on that cover of a publication.
That's a good idea. Actually sending the hard copies to the people, to the relatives. I give them the copies, and they're going to take care of.
Okay.
I like that.
Sometimes they have.
I'm gonna borrow that.
Yeah.
Because, you always
they email in,
yeah.
and they'll say, "Oh, can you send us some copies?"
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing is that we keep copies, limited copies. So they have to reach out right as the paper is going out.
Yes.
Right after it went out from printing. But we send out papers all the time to people requesting the papers, the magazines. They'll ask for copies, and we'll send them out to them in different places.
We have one problem. Not the only person that ran into the problem. Our entire news crew was affected by this, but there came a time when the situation at the SNJ today changed drastically, and one of the things that was done was that the servers were wiped. So a lot of the work that we did just doesn't exist anymore. Our newspaper archive is better, but still, I feel. Yeah, it makes me feel very sad. It's like a death in the family.
Yeah,
that happened, and it shouldn't have happened. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there,
right?
And things that if they weren't keeping their own reel carefully,
mm-hmm.
things that some of the TV people lost.
Yeah, a lot of our archives now are digital
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of the publications. There was one, the Gloucester City News, that we acquired back in 2019. And they had actual huge booklets.
Wow.
Of
the morgue.
Of their publications. And we have used them to refer to different things that they had at different points. But for the most part, most of it is kept archived digitally. But we still get office copies.
Right.
So people can always reach out and ask for extra copies.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. That's very old school to actually use the morgue. To update something happening somewhere. Yeah. I like that.
So let's talk a little bit about one of the stories that you wrote, which is Resilient Voices. And I'll let you go dive into what it is and what the organization does.
This is a national program, actually. It's called something like, I'm not even going to try to remember it. Resilient Voices is the name of the local organization that does this. The National Endowment for the Arts funds about 40 amateur theater community groups to do this structured project each year. And it's designed around the needs of veterans. It's designed to allow veterans to express themselves and maybe some things that they don't generally express, or they're fearful to express. It allows them the freedom to do through art, not just music, art, music, backstage work, writing, oral presentations. It allows them the leeway to kind of clear their heads a little bit in a way that they wouldn't usually be thought of as a way to do that. And the veterans form a certain core of this, but the Resilient Voices Choir, which it's about 35 people, includes also community members that like to sing and like to be in the chorus. And then it also includes people that are new to choral singing. and this is their first exposure to it. And then these groups interact and speak with each other and get to know each other very, very well. It struck me when all I did with this story, and I do actually, when you asked me what do I like to do, I was just an observer. I just was an observer. A lot of it is written first person. And I was there for one night, and one of the things that hit me first was when the people that I was riding in the elevator with, a lot of these veterans are disabled. A lot of them are old, and most of them are old, and a lot of them are disabled. So it was a woman in a wheelchair, and a obviously great friend of hers pushing the wheelchair. And when they came out of the elevator, they were just like, hi, people come over to greet them. And and I said, what are they? These are the leaders? No, it's just like, that's the way we feel about each other. We've learned to bond. We've learned to talk about personal things. We've learned to sing better. Mm-hmm. And then it all culminated in a production. The production was on May 30th. We wrote the story about 10 days before that to try to gin up a little bit of interest.
Right.
That's a retro word. And that was the way it was. That was the way I did the story. It was the group was really diverse, racially diverse in male and female. There were a little bit more females than males, and they were led by a very experienced choral director. I have her name in here somewhere. It's not on the top of my head. Who was very kind and very in tune with the program. Mm-hmm. And surprised me the very first time is when she went around before they even started rehearsing. We had any birthdays this week? And so, and they sang happy birthday to the person who had their birthday that week. It was, it was just nice. A natural, and that spoke to the main essence of this, which I was a little bit skeptical of how something like this, I'm a reporter, I'm skeptical about everything, but of how they would do this with people that were brand new, veterans who, are older and who maybe, the last thing that they wanted to do was talk about their war experiences to a group of people.
Right.
And how they would pull it off. And they pull it off beautifully. It was a beautiful experience to see the rehearsal, to become teary when they sang my eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Mm-hmm. They did the whole program were military songs. They did a medley of all the anthems of each of the branches of the service, and had that patriotic theme, and it blew me away. And that was the rehearsal.
Right, it wasn't even the performance.
I didn't even hear the oral presentations of the rehearsal.
Right,
and then I went to the show, and excuse me, I was blown away again, along with an audience of about 300 people.
Oh, wow.
The little theater, the Levoy Theatre, capacity about 700. Turned out about 300 for the concert. It's a great turnout.
Okay. And then you mentioned about the diversity of the group. But something I noticed was not just in gender or ethnicity, but also you mentioned the diverse age group that there was, because I believe you said that there was someone as young as in their 20s.
That's right.
And it just went up from there.
Went up past 80. I didn't locate a 90, but they're there in the New Jersey Veterans Home, Vineland, where these veterans came from. That's another topic, but it's not another topic. It's right on point. Mm-hmm. A lot of the older folks were veterans and disabled veterans and older veterans that needed basically nursing home care, and it's as far as the nursing home industry around that area, it's stellar. It's just like a beautiful place with a really dedicated staff and a lot of good activities, and a couple of things that they're known for, like being founded in 1899 as the first nursing home in the entire state of New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And they've been in existence right on through.
And then you mentioned about the range of experience. And there was a gentleman that you mentioned that said he never really sang before, but he thinks he just was a filler for that.
Yeah, he said that it was John Keith, and he was the first person I met on that evening. And he said, they told me to come. I'm a body. I don't know how to sing, but when I get in there, it's just natural to sing. So
Mhm.
I sing. And I certainly couldn't notice his voice as being anything other than on key
Right.
and singing. I have a feeling he probably sang in the shower or did something like that.
Right.
I mean, but that's what he told me. He was just adding bulk was the direct quote to
Right.
the choir.
Right.
And he accompanied one of the people, Sheila Holman. That was the woman that was with him.
Mhm.
And it turns out that she's a woman, and she served in the Air Force as a staff sergeant on active duty. And when the program was presented,
Mhm.
she was the main oral presenter. And she presented a poem that she had written about life in the Army.
Oh.
And then she presented a very bracing presentation. They wrote these presentations themselves. That was part of their therapy.
Right.
It was like therapy. About being a woman at that time in the Army, serving as a staff sergeant. It was positive because she did a good job, and many people reacted well to her. But it was different. I mean, they didn't react the same way as they were used to reacting to a man. She was a real pioneer. You almost have to say feminist, regardless of her political views.
Right.
A very, very strong woman. One of the oldest and one of the weakest physically was one of the strongest performers in the chorus.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the amateurs, they sat or stood next to them. And that's the way they do it. They put, here and there, they plug you in if you're going to be, helped basically
Right.
by the tune and the pitch of the people that are standing with you. One of them was a fantastic. She did a solo in the performance. Just fantastic singer. She may have done the Star Spangled Banner. I'm not sure. She was the most experienced. She was the best. She maybe wasn't the most experienced, but she was the best. And she helped carry it, and she was recognized that way. And then there was Betty Ann Hickman, who was an amateur singer. She sang with the Millville Women's Club. A couple of the members came from the Millville Women's Club chorus.
Okay.
And she was one of them. But she was also recognized as the spirit of the group. She's like an incredibly positive person. Never, her military experience was wonderful for her. She didn't, her veterans background in her family. I'm getting excited about this.
Yeah.
Included 12 family members going back generations.
Oh, wow.
In her family. And she took me back through those generations, who they were, where they served. And it did include her father and her uncle. She is not a veteran.
Oh, okay.
She didn't serve in the service. She just, like they sit for most of their rehearsals. She stands during the rehearsal.
Okay.
She always seems to be in the center of a group that's discussing things. And I talked to her briefly. She's really smart. And so there were, just like, there were leaders, there were followers, there were, people that had opened up their hearts to people who they only knew for a couple of weeks. This work ran for 16 weeks.
I was going to ask a little bit about how long was it?
The grant was for 16 weeks.
Okay.
I can't tell you today whether the grant was renewed. It's right on the cusp going on right now.
Okay.
It's eligible for renewal so that they can revive this and do it again. There's some talk about being locally funded to keep it on.
Right.
Not with National Endowment.
Were
for
all
the
the
Arts.
Performances at the Levoy Theatre?
The Levoy Theatre presentation performance was the only public performance. Others were done at veteran centers, at the VFW hall, at the Veterans Home itself. That one had a huge turnout. Everybody that lived there came out for this.
Right.
And then one or two others, but it was not a big production to run. To have continue shows, no run of shows. They did all of those around Memorial Day. That all took place around Memorial Day. And they were the venues.
Okay. All right. And were there any other details that you couldn't get into the story that you had printed?
But you're saying the things that had to be. It was. I somehow managed to get 1,500 words allotted. That's big
Yeah.
for a story that I do. It's usually in the 1,000 range at most.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
sometimes you need that extra space.
We had extra space. We had a couple of sidebars I'll talk about that are, I mean, I'm feeling a little bit of emotion. This is taking me back to this a little bit. And it was one story after another. And as usually happens, the very last story was the best one of them all. I forgot the actual question. The actual question is, what would I put into it if I had 3,000 words?
Right. Or
10,000 words. I think, maybe not 10, but the Veterans Home has such a rich history. I could have written about many more veterans and their lives and how they feel about the world, their families. I mean, you're talking, I did a show, with both radio and print. And I interviewed 3 veterans from World War II. Mm-hmm. And you count up those years and, one of them was actually 100. The others were in their late 90s. And, we just carried on this interview about their service time, about their families, about the poker game that they play every single morning there, the friendship that they have, the places that they go when they go out. And that was an unbelievable interview, one of the best interviews that I've ever done, because they were, because they had a lot to say. I mean, they lived such a long life,
right?
And that could have been done with many of the veterans living in the Veterans Home, and I could have included the staff that is invaluable. The staff is very handpicked. It's not just we need somebody, job available here,
right?
Hand chosen, real experienced, and I could have included, a lot of that.
Now, were many of the ones that participated this year, had they done this in the past, or were they all new?
The veterans,
yes,
no,
okay,
they had not done choral singing outside of church. 1 or 2 of them were in the church choir. Mm-hmm. There was one father-daughter group who the father sang in the senior choir and the daughter sang in the junior choir at the same time. That's in that very, very moving sidebar. Mm-hmm. So no, they wouldn't. And then on the other hand, I mean, I mentioned 1899 for the New Jersey Veterans Home Vineland, which it's officially called. It's almost universally affectionately called the Old Soldiers Home because that's what it is. It's the Old Soldiers Home, but that's slang description. In 1898, the Levoy Theatre opened in Millville, which was, the other part of this. The Levoy Theatre was the funding agency who recruited the veterans and the community members to put Resilient Voices together. And the Levoy has an incredible history, and it is now opened as a fully redesigned old theater with the chandeliers and the felt seats and the balcony. Oh, sorry, boy. It's had a couple incarnations, but right now it's just a beautiful venue for current entertainment acts, for theater plays, Broadway theater, done by a couple of different local groups. It draws 700 people on occasion to the really good shows. And that, that history and current, actually that one, probably current way it is now, would have been even more than the history that I could have easily included in this. I have a little bit in about their grant and how they thought all the thinking that went into it and why they were doing it. But there's many other things. I mean, it's really successful. Mm-hmm. I mean, you probably know of successful reborn theaters in some towns.
Right. Yeah.
This one is really reborn and really affects the town.
Yeah, we actually cover some in our 08108 magazine in Collingswood. We have one in Pittman. We often do
the Broadway.
For the Broadway Theater. Yeah. Actually, our first issue there, the cover was the Broadway Theater.
Yeah, Broadway Theater is it's a theater. It's just like the theater. They didn't do any. I mean, they painted it, but boy, that's it. And that continued on. That didn't have any disruptive
break.
time.
Yeah.
It just went right on through.
And then also the Eagle Theater in
the Eagle
Hamilton.
in Hamilton, relatively new.
Yeah. So we've
Community
covered that
theater.
one in the publication that we have there as well.
Yeah, there's good number in our area.
Yeah.
There's one right next door to Millville in Vineland called the Landis Theater, which had a similar history to the Levoy. Wasn't as old, but in the late 70s, early 80s, just it just shuttered. Nothing happened. The Levoy was made into some different things. It was a store for a while, changed it into a store. They had apartments above it. I mean, it just had the Landis just closed as a theater. And when I walked into it, when they were going to start the renovation, they had the renovation done in their head, but it was a tomb. It was a really big cave-like tomb, complete with dripping water coming down from the ceiling. It had
almost like a pipe.
They had so many leaks they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. I mean, it was already condemned, but the town didn't, like the activists in the town, they didn't want to
invest in it.
They didn't want it to go away. They wanted to dream of it being. But boy, when I looked at that, I still remember it was bracing. I said, they're not going to do anything with this. It's impossible that they would be able to do this. The only thing that existed, strangely enough, the popcorn stand existed still, but the rest of it was just a wreck. And the Levoy got like that at certain times. When they were rebuilding the Levoy, everybody was excited. It was going up. It was on plan. The architects loved it. And then something happened in the foundation that they don't actually know exactly what happened. But it crumbled. And half of the building went into pile of bricks.
Right.
They had to really restart almost the renovation of it.
Wow.
Even the building next door was affected by the cave-in. I mean, it was some other people, the people that were really working hard on it, some of them said, I quit.
Right. Yeah.
But they didn't.
It's a lot of work rebuilding. So Mickey, is there anything else you wanted to add about the Resilient Voices?
I wanted to just get across, repeat one more time, while the singing program, the choral level of talent was very impressive, while the oral presentations were terrific and bracing. It was like, the way I wrote it was like being at an AA meeting, the way they related to each other. I'm talking now about the relationships being more important than the choral singing, the relationships, the support of each other, all those things. It was like an AA meeting, but it had singing instead of angst. Right. And it was a great experience. I think that probably came across in the interview. This was not your average story. This wasn't one that I filed and forgot. This is one that I filed and still continue to think about. I was really, really happy to be with you and be able to relive that. It's a great story. We thank you for sharing it with us and going into a little more details about the Resilient Voices and the programs that go behind it and the support that, the veterans have. So thank you so much for that. It's a pleasure having you. Thanks for having me here. And I do want to acknowledge Deb Hine, my editor, who has been my editor all the way through the 20 years that we've been in existence. I thank her for letting me do this kind of thing. Yeah. And I thank her for connecting us because she was the one that connected us. That's right. So thanks to Deb also. Okay. All right. That's a wrap for this episode of Beyond the Pages. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep reading between the lines.